Hello to all my viewers. Welcome back to Let's Play Civ 4 multiplayer with Mao of China. Unfortunately, I was wrong in the last video. I do not kill Pekalov in this one either. Unfortunately, some of my friends here decided to take their time in this clip. So, yeah, a little bit limited there. And so I'm going to get right to the comments, because this is going to be a little bit less content happy than I would like it to be. So, yeah, let's get started. First off is a question from Diogist. Hey, the Mayan team. What would you say is the best help you can give for going from Monarch to Emperor? Seems like the jump in difficulty from Monarch to Emperor is a lot higher than the other jumps. Well, as you go up in difficulty, you realize that not each one feels like it's a harder jump than the last. And amazingly, the jump from Immortal to Deity is actually larger than the jump from Noble to Immortal. So, it's only uphill from here, unfortunately. But, specifically Monarch to Emperor, it's actually one of the less impact jumps. You really do need to start thinking about specialization. I really need to think about tactics in war, and much higher emphasis on researching technologies that can trade than in previous difficulties if you're just moving up. So those are probably the biggest things. It's really just like almost a 5% across the board increase. It's not like they get extra units or technologies to the same extent that they would, say, on the jump to Monarch, the jump to Immortal, or especially the jump to Deity. So it's not that big a deal. But yeah, every time you have a difficulty increment going up, a couple more things become less viable, and it's time to start adapting. And probably the reason you're running into trouble at Emperor rather than Monarch or whatever is that that's where your typical patterns are hitting a wall. So think about how you play, maybe check out some forum games by myself or other players, and try to see what people are doing differently from you. That's really the best advice I could give. Other than just, there's so many aspects of gameplay that you can improve, and without it being apparent which one that's lacking, it's hard to say what's really going to help you make the jump from one difficulty to the next. Okay, next is by Lance11888, and he will own your face in Modern Warfare 2 viewers. He's an awesome player. Okay, his question is, what's my favorite and least favorite map scripts to play on, and why? Okay, I don't really have big favorites. I do like some variety. Probably the ones I use the most are Fractal, Continents, and any other map script where you have a decent chance of getting multiple continents. My least favorite ones are like straight up all land maps, not Pangaea, although that's not very good. I like it sometimes for a change, but you know, it's just okay. But the ones I'm talking about are like Great Plains or Oasis or something. I really hate these map scripts, especially when people post forum games and leave the default number of civs on. For low to middle difficulties, that's fine, but for high difficulties, you'll get AIs with like 25 or 30 cities by like, I don't know, 500 AD. And that can really screw you up. Like, you can't possibly match that expansion rate just from an expense standpoint. And then they just spam units, and it's very hard to beat them with anything but like culture or diplomacy. And I hate knowing that I'm going to rely on that right from the start of the game. So I really don't like those scripts. And the other script I don't like a whole lot is Big and Small, just because it's extremely micro-intensive. All those little islands to settle, it's so ticky-tack. So I don't like that either. Alright. Moving on. For Eerie Owl, main team, what makes an ideal great person farm? Should it be your capital you've already built, the great library there? Or what settings do you select in a city manager? Well, okay. He also asks about buildings, terrain, whatever. Pretty simply put, great person farm should be one of your highest food cities. Or you can get by with a wonder spam capital if you get great library, national epic, and a few other wonders. That can take care of great people decently. Although that's something you'll do more if you don't have a strong bureaucracy capital, in my opinion. But sometimes you just kind of fit it in there. The other alternative is just to settle a site with like 3 seafood or like irrigated corn and a grassland cow and a couple tiles you can farm. That kind of stuff can also really help you out for the Great Person farm. Really, it's just a question of how much you need a really strong one versus other things. But if your capital is your best GP farm, you can consider moving your palace also to try to get advantage of the bureaucracy bonus. Or you can just ignore the bureaucracy bonus and use other civics. Whatever. Okay. Moving on to the next question. From Zin0815. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Hey, the main team, I often have trouble finding the right ratio between siege and normal units. Any tips on that topic depending on era? Okay, for most eras, you want about half of your army to be siege. Once you hit Renaissance, it can maybe be a little bit less. But for anything before that, it'll really, like, half your offensive army can really be siege. Later in the game, when you have things like massed fighters or nukes or, naval bombardment, then you don't need as many siege pieces. Really, if you're using nukes, you don't need any siege at all. Nukes are your siege. And ratio there, enough to clear out the units in the city or so badly damage them that the military you're using can kill them. Really with artillery, too, I would say you can drop to maybe a third of your army being artillery, because you need to leave more garrison guys behind in the infantry era to really cover the city and prevent them from just taking it back with some cheap 2-tank setup or something. So yeah, then you'll need more just foot soldiers to leave behind, so artillery can be like a third of your invasion stack. But for most of the early game, go with about half. Next question is when to declare on someone. By Father Tuck. He says that I always seem to know when to declare. I wish that were true. Yeah, at least so far on YouTube it's looked good, other than my Boudica loss, although I was kind of forced there because of the culture. What was the most important thing to do in terms of... Well, okay. Knowing when to declare war is a combination of knowing your diplomatic situation, knowing that you have enough units to defeat your enemy, and that he won't, pull some rifles out of his butt right before you kill him or something and really screw you. So it's a combination of following the AI tech, knowing you have enough units to kill their units. You can usually determine that just by running a unit through their lands with open borders, if you have any doubts. And then, of course, making sure that you don't get dogpiled. If you have warmongers near you that are pleased, beg for 1 gold so they can't declare any for 10 turns, or take the target as a vassal for 10 turns, and so on. Or try to get people to dispositions where they can't pile on you while you're warring with the target, because that hurts a lot when it happens. Yeah, I've actually lost some games that way, but fortunately in the few YouTube games I have done, that hasn't happened. It doesn't happen to me that often, but once in a while I do get screwed by declaring war when maybe I shouldn't. Okay, next is X the Revisionist X. He's saying that it always looks like I'm clicking above where I'm actually clicking. And I think this is an issue with the video input. But also I do tend to click near the tops of the units. So even a mild shift to upwards will cause it to look like I'm clicking way above, because I usually click near the top of the units because that saves time. Niceville Productions is asking, where is my navy? It seems as if I have no naval units, which could later be beneficial in the later game. Well, actually, I do need a navy because I want to eventually invade Bismarck and Ragnar and Hannibal, because they're the only AIs left that I can hit. And I have a method for coming up with a navy. So it's interesting you asked that. You'll see soon. Probably in the next 2 or 3 videos, you'll see how I set up my navy. And it's actually pretty impressive. So I'll save commenting on that for now. Just just keep in mind that I have it taken care of, viewers. I have the Navy taken care of. And then finally, abundant tree. The Mayan team, is it ever worth it to build cottages in mid-game and using emancipation to grow them? The answer is yes. If you feel you have enough turns left in the game to grow them and work them as towns, then build them. That's especially true for like late game space race victories or anything where you're working that technological aspect where you're just going to not be doing too much in terms of war for the next 60 turns. Emancipated cottages are much higher ROI than cottages before it, so those I can recommend depending on what you want to do. And that takes care of about all the time we have in this segment, so I'll see you next time. Mayan team, signing out.